Hey, my name's ShawNshawN. I sell art on ShawNshawN.co. Today we're going to react to Morbius. So it's a film by Daniel Espinosa. I think he has two writers. Time is 1 hour and 44 minutes. So right at that sweet spot, 1.5 hours, just a little bit longer, but very tightly edited. We have actors Jared Leto plays Dr. Michael Morbius. Adria Arjona plays Martine Bancroft. Jared Harris plays Emil Nikols. Matt Spitz plays Milo. Tyrese Gibson plays Detective Simon Stroud. So Dr. Morbius has this really chronic blood disease that causes him to kind of hobble around. He has to have his blood changed out every 3 times a day. So he's looking desperately for a cure to help his patients and, his own condition as well. And he stumbles upon the idea of blending vampire bats with human blood, and he comes up with the serum and tries it on himself. He cures his hobbling around, but then he has a real thirst for blood, so he becomes kind of a pseudo vampire. He's desperately seeking a cure for this before he turns completely into a vampire. So it's a kind of a fun plot, I think, to set up. I think they had really great CGI with the vampires flying around. They have kind of tracers on the vampires to kind of see where they went. I'm not sure if I like the tracers, but it's kind of a cool effect. One of the villains is his best friend he tries the serum as well and decides he's totally bloodthirsty and he doesn't care who he kills. And he loves his new condition versus being a cripple his whole life. So that's kind of interesting because he has to go fight his best friend. So that's always kind of a nice twist in a film. Good setup for a villain. I think they could have stretched out a little bit the development from Dr. Morbius into the monster. I think, they had a really short transition from when he's a doctor, puts on the serum, and all of a sudden he's a monster with super powers, right? And he just instantly, learns all his fantastic powers. I think they could have stretched it out a little bit longer to see kind of what his powers were as they developed. But I liked it, they got right into it more or less. There's an interesting love interest for the doctor who was a fellow doctor who he didn't have a chance before because he's kind of a cripple and she didn't want to date a cripple, right? But now that he's superhuman, it's kind of like, ooh, sexy guy. So it gets back to kind of the very base female attraction to the alpha male. He was basically kind of a beta male before as a crippled doctor, but now that he's a doctor with a superhuman ability, he's like the super stud. So that's kind of a fun twist, stereotypical, but definitely realistic. A lot of the marketing that they did for the film, they kind of used some of the best shots, like where it shows that he turns into a monster and that his initial killing scene they kind of show in the marketing, and he's flying about in a subway. So you get a lot of the best parts of what his vampire skills are all about, which might be different than other vampire films. So I think they gave a lot away in the marketing. I mean, they have to get butts in the seats, obviously, but it's a Marvel movie, so I don't know how much you have to really actively promote for a Marvel movie. Everyone likes a Marvel movie. They're usually pretty well executed. This one is done by, I think, Columbia versus the classical Marvel under Disney. So I guess they sold off, licensed the character of Morbius to Columbia, so they have another character. So I guess in the future, he'll probably team up with Spider-Man and other side characters from the Marvel world that aren't very prominent. They're kind of spin off into Columbia's world, I guess. And they'll have another superhero films. And at the end, they had like a lot of tangents. Like they wrapped the film up tight, and then they had all these other tangents for future films, obviously. But it seemed like a little desperate, like kind of like thirst, like, oh, we're going to have like 5 different sequels after this. Like, no, you just want to promote the very next sequel. You don't need to promote 5 sequels, just the very next sequel, right? So I think they kind of went off a little bit on the deep end on that. My screen went dead right in the middle of this. They had a little bit of jokes against like old vampires. They kind of had like he's reading up on old vampire tales of like sunlight and vampire steaks with wood, and so that's kind of a fun. They kind of make jokes of old vampire premises because obviously he's a new modern vampire and it's really only the blood condition that he has. Yeah, I think it was a pretty fun film, pretty tightly woven. Don't really see many tweaks, but yeah, I think I liked it pretty well. I like Jared Leto. He does some really cool acting. So yeah, I would encourage you guys to see it. I don't know if I collect it. It might be a collectible. I don't know. Probably diehard Marvel fans probably would. If you like to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you in the next movie review. Thanks for watching, guys.